Hey everybody, it's Raina. I hope everybody's doing well. And that you haven't had if you had your COVID vaccine, that you're feeling okay. I'm still experiencing side effects from the first vaccine. It seems like this is the fourth cold I've had since I got the vaccine on September 13th. So I'm not doing too well with it, and I hope and the newest symptom is heart palpitations, which I normally don't have. So they were kind of scary yesterday. I had to take one of my husband's sedatives to calm me down a little bit. Um, so I didn't have that before, so I have to talk to my doctor and report all this because I guess she has to report everything to the CDC or whatever, because I know they don't like to hear about side effects from the vaccine. But my doctor was very compliant, and she was you know, they were very understanding about it. And she wrote me a letter right away and said I'm exempt from the second one because of adverse reaction. But anyway, I hope everybody else is doing better. Still not feeling well, but anyway, I'm here. I just wanted to tell you I'm starting to get spirit feelings back, that I'm feeling that a spirit has come. It was gone for a couple weeks, I think because I was sick, but I started, not last night, but the night before, started to feel like there was a presence, and a few times before that, and I got the feeling like this time it was about Gabby and Brian. And last night it came in so strong, and it was visions while I slept, and then I woke up from them around 2:30 in the morning. And what I saw was in symbolism. So you're gonna have to, help me. But things were told to me, and even after I woke up, they were still talking to me. And first of all, any trolls leave. I don't appreciate that. And I was kind of iffy on the. My husband thinks that Brian is still alive, and I was kind of like, well, they had the dental, but they're not, giving us the. I know the bone parts are not his. There's something screwy going on. But anyway, I was in this vision, and they were telling me all kinds of things, the spirits, and I saw Brian running back and forth in like, it's always when I see him, it's always like sand or like a brown colored, like light brown colored thing. He's always rushing back and forth. And in front of me, there was like a cement cube that had been, it was huge. It was like, I guess, like really big. And it was right in front of me. And on top of it, it was really, remember, this is a vision. So it's in symbolism. And I knew it had been chiseled, hand chiseled. And there were chains on top of it, like just kind of thrown on top of it. And I knew they had been worked on. Like it was, somebody had used it for something, and it had been worked on. And Brian was running back and forth. And I saw Kylie and Crystal. Their bodies were like right next to where I could see. And the spirits told me that he had killed them too, which I already suspected. And the FBI already know that that was the gun that killed them, but they're not releasing that information. So, and they also they also told me that I knew that whatever they did, Brian was still alive. However they did the dental, the odontologist or whatever, the tooth doctor, forensic tooth doctor, had come up with these results. They were somehow doctored, and that was not his. Were not his teeth, and the bones that they found were not going to be his, or they would not admit to them being his. That's what they told me. and he was still very much alive. And I knew, they told me that someone the Laundries had gone through their lawyer, and he had hired someone that they didn't know, that he didn't know, that someone not related to the family, to do what they needed to be done, to set it up to look like Brian had killed himself, and that those were his bones. Those bones were only placed there like the day before, and they were not found. They were found by the Laundries because that's where they were told where to look. The father was just checking to see if everything was set up. And this man, I could see this man. I couldn't see his face, but he was tall. He was like 6'2". He was like middle-aged and had like he was balding and had like like dark hair on the sides of his head. And I got the feeling like he was foreign. And they wanted nothing to do, and the Laundries had paid, money had been exchanged for his services of coming up with the remains of somebody else that were, perhaps, I know this might sound outlandish to some of you, somebody else's skeleton. It was not Brian's skeleton. And the teeth could have been somehow, they could have, since the uncle is a dentist, they could have manipulated someone else's jaw, mandible, and taken x-rays of it and said it was Brian's or something. They did something. I don't know how they did it, but those are not his remains. He is alive and well, and I don't feel he's in the country anymore. And the reason the FBI never found him was that he was at the Robinson Preserve, where I said he was. He was living there. They told the FBI he was at the Carlton Reserve to throw them off. And then the father makes a beeline the morning that they found him, because that's where the arranged place was where they would find all this stuff. The book will tell them nothing, but something weird happened. I was reading somebody's post. It was I subscribed to this channel. It's a crime channel. And she said in one of the books, the weird books that Brian was reading, he said in one of the books, it was an excerpt it was a book about a serial killer, which he was totally fascinated by serial killers, killed 2 lesbians in like the Utah area, then went on to smother and choke another person in the Jackson area, and then went on to fake his own death by shooting himself, pretending to shoot himself, and then flee the country. When I read that, I was like, huh? Like, how close is that to what actually looks like? I know he's not dead. I saw him. I felt his presence. I felt he was still alive. I've always felt he was still alive. They faked it. They paid somebody outside that they would say they didn't know, because they didn't want to know who this was. It was somebody who was paid outside the family. They wouldn't know them. I don't think the sister has much to do with anything because she doesn't want to. And the lawyer arranged everything. And this is what I was told. And I also they said he had someone to help faking his death. And faked his dental records also. They also told me he was homophobic. That might explain why he went after those 2 women. It just was said loud in my head. homophobic. And then it's also said another kind of phobia where you're afraid of germs. But it wasn't that he was willing to clean up. He was always after, I could feel it. I hated him for this. He was always after Gabby to keep everything so germophobic or whatever, to keep everything like tidy, neat, like everything she did was wrong. It was never good enough. It was never clean enough. He was always pushing her around. And that was why she slept a lot, because she felt like nothing she ever did was right. But she still stayed with him for some reason. I guess because they enabled he she was a little bit immature, and she had a little childlike, and she wanted what she wanted, and but anyway, so he pushed her around, and nothing was ever good enough. And I saw her again running in the desert away from him, and him running her down and throwing a rock at her, throwing things at her, and ran her down and caught her and strangled her. She fought for her life, and so did the other girls. They fought for their lives. They were right there, laid out right next to me on that boulder, which actually resembled a tooth. Um, Somebody had been working on that tooth, which kind of tells me that maybe somebody fudged the dental records somehow. And there were chains on which is in symbolism, chains on this big boulder. And I knew they had been hammered and worked on. So somebody's been working on this plan, and the Laundries know all about it. And I don't think the sister wants to know about it. She doesn't want her family to know, her family to know about it, or her husband, because she knows it. And also, I feel, and this man will just disappear who helped them. I don't feel he's from this country. He's foreign, and he's not the kind of person you would want to know. I feel the lawyer will one day commit suicide over this because of guilt. Their lawyer. I feel this, that he's going to one day feel so guilty about what he did. So Brian's not even in this country anymore. I keep feeling like Hungary or Mexico or something like that, or Honduras, something like this. But he's still alive, and he can run, but he's one day he's going to get caught. And I always said he was that's not his body. No matter what the findings come back, it's taking an awful long time for those findings to come back. Usually by now they would have come back with the findings, unless they're looking for, people are making, like, oh, they would have checked for the root, the tooth root, and for DNA and all this stuff like that. And it's just kind of conjecture that they've called it a day on his death. I don't think most people believe it. So that's what I got, and it was very strong feeling. And I saw like a link again between the Robinson Preserve and the Carlton Preserve, and that's where he was staying, at the Robinson Preserve. That's why they didn't find him. I sent my info in twice to TBI and to Dog, and I never heard anything. Nothing was ever, you know, they just kept looking where they were looking. And it did not make sense from all the experts about the cadaver dogs and everything like that. I'm not using that, I'm just using what I know. And that was a very close connection. And I might get more information, because now I seem to have gotten spirits have to come to me. I can't suddenly sit there and say, is John here? Is John in the room? it just doesn't work that way. I have to wait. Sometimes I wait for weeks because I'm not feeling well, or it's they're just not talking to me. And that I have to wait. I do it the old-fashioned way. To me, that the spirit box thing, it's a portal, and I just like the Ouija board, and I don't kind of believe that this is the same kind of connection that I would get, or somebody who is genuinely psychic. Not to say that people who use them aren't psychic. I just don't feel it's the same thing. How can you trust it? I mean, it's just like a bunch of words in a box, and you're just pulling random words. And I mean, I all due respect to everybody who uses them, but to me, I have to wait. And sometimes I don't post for a week or two, and people say, "Where, why aren't you posting?" But because I haven't gotten anything. And I'm not going to lie to you and say I got something when I didn't. And, you know, um, I've also felt summer very strongly yesterday and the day before. I saw leaves, brown leaves in my mind. I started to cry. I felt like it was almost time. It was almost that time. And I I felt her so strongly, her presence, that it was almost time, and that she would be found. And I feel Dawn disappearing. Dawn Wells and Candace is falling apart. And I think this Dr. Phil thing is a good thing because it shows them all these lies are more lies and more lies are coming out. And now the neighbor who saw heard the scream and all this, it's just like, you know, but I just feel like Don isn't going to be with us much longer. I think he's going to be, like said, she's going to drive him crazy. She showed me he's going to be hanging from that tree, and they're going to find um, Summer, her remains, and she's going to be at peace, and she's continuing to drive him crazy because that's what's happening, and he's lost all credibility except for drunkenness and drugs and everything, and so is she. Now she's starting, her emotions are starting to come out because she feels, and she said to somebody, Jenna, somebody, I'm afraid I'll go to prison if they find out what Don and I did to Summer. And I know what I saw. I know what she told me. And it's like everything's happening. I'm feeling it coming closer and closer and closer. And I feel like December 5th or 14th is something's going to happen on either date. Something's going to happen. Um, so that would be about the time. Um, so we'll just see. The more Don shoots his mouth off, the better for everybody else because, um, I felt Summer's presence so strong yesterday. I just started crying and I said, I just love you, baby. You know, um, she's, just, it's been a long road. And my husband came home. He said, "What's the matter? Why are you crying?" And I just said, "Give me a hug." I said, "Summer's here and it's almost time." And he said, "I know." And I said, I just want her to find peace. And so anyway, that's what I have about those two cases. That Dickhead is still quite alive, and but he can't run forever. And I don't know. I haven't really felt if they're going to do. They can't really prosecute the Laundries for doing anything because they can't prove they did anything. If there's no dead body, or well, even if there is a dead body, uh, it's not his. I don't know how they'll explain it, but it's not his body. It's not his dental work. somebody's playing around, or they fudged it somehow. That big block of cement or something, I think represented a tooth, which is the only evidence they have, part of the jaw and a tooth and chains and things being worked on. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it did look a lot. And all the sand and the girls, two girls that were murdered, and the things he said in that that were said in that book, it sounds eerily similar to what happened in his what actually happened, and then he faked his own suicide with a gun. And they did find that gun, and they said it was, they didn't say it was the same. Apparently it was the same caliber, because they showed one that, a new one they put right next to it in somebody's post, one of the crime people, true crime people, and it looked, well, it was all waterlogged and everything, still wrapped in like the red stuff. And apparently the was the 9 millimeter, and they wouldn't have put it in the database if it. I think they, and it was strange because it was steel tipped pistol bullets, and usually they're lead or something like that, or iron, or it was an unusual kind of pistol, and I mean bullet. So I know he killed them. I've seen it. So anyway, that's all I have to say for now. And summer's time is coming, and I see November 5th or December 5th or 14th. Um, so we'll just see. And leaves are getting brown. So I wish you all well, and I'm gonna do another chapter on the spirit messages from Michael. And somebody mentioned Edgar Case. Um, that's very interesting. We grew up with that too, learning about that. Was a prophet, a real prophet, and was an amazing healer from distance, long distance. And he was fascinating to learn about. We learned about all that when I was growing up, all kinds of spiritualism and things like that. So, well, I better get my shepherd's pie out of the oven, and I shall talk to you soon. So I wish you all well, and talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.